Well, as many of your listeners probably realize, Wyoming, like many other states, has a well-funded corporate welfare program. We call it the Wyoming Business Council Business Ready Communities Grant Program. Basically, the state of Wyoming has been siphoning off tax money and using it to throw at infrastructure projects or trying to recruit businesses, pay businesses to come and set up shop in Wyoming for a little while. Well, as many of these programs are, the money is available not directly to businesses always, but sometimes it's to towns and cities. Well, the town of Grable decided that what they really needed was an industrial park to attract all sorts of industry to Grable. And so they got their hands on some land and decided to build an industrial park. This is all well, fine, and good, except for the land they acquired. It was from a defunct oil refinery or something like that. Surrounds a local resident's house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the resident, obviously, the resident has to go, doesn't he?
Well, no, they just rezoned the land on three sides of him. He, faces on a road, and he rezoned the land on three sides of him around, left him zoned residential, give or take a couple hundred feet.
Right.
And so there you have this recipe. You have the town who has purchased property and is now going to be the local commercial or industrial developer,
right,
and is now running to the state of Wyoming to get some of this business-ready community grant money to help them put in water and sewer and what have you to build this park for all these industries to come to and make Grable into a thriving industrial center.
Okay, so in this case, you're worried about the individual then. And I remember there was a Watauga County in North Carolina, up in the mountains, at one time had zero zoning. It was such a small county, population-wise. There was no such thing as zoning. And then when they decided to zone some things up there, they had a big fight over zoning in Watauga County. There were people who were completely against it. Well, of course, the pendulum had to swing from no zoning to too much zoning, to the point you can't even go outside and let your dog poop on your own lawn. I'm exaggerating, of course. But, so you've got, I think, have to have a balance of maybe a few rules, but not many. What you're saying here that's bothering me, though, is the area was already zoned, and the guy was living perfectly within a zoned area, so he should have been safe there, but then they decided to change the rules all of a sudden.
Well, and here's what is kind of a kicker in this, and this is something that you see quite around Wyoming quite a bit, is the idea of our government as being an impartial arbiter, trying to protect everybody's rights. In this case, the developer is the town that the guy is living in. Right. So when he went to try to seek redress of his grievances to the local government, of course they laughed in his face and said, "No, this is our project. They are now wearing the hat of not the neutral arbiter, but wearing the hat of the developer." Now, part of this is, hey, it's okay. I'm usually on the other side of these issues anyway. Whoever owns the property is allowed to do what they want to do with it, and neighbors should have bought the land. But in this case, we're talking about the government entity. It's state of Wyoming money that's going to build this, and Maureen, I know, talks at length about corporate welfare. Well, as it turns out, they're selling the lots in this industrial park to a bunch of local businesses.
Oh, okay. Now, I don't know if you thought about this, but the first thing that enters my mind is, Boyd, who on the city side of this stands to make some money off of it? It could be on the city side. The city seems to be willing to sell the land at about half of what it's appraised at. But it's, these local... one of the stories
stories I hear is the company that has the contract to build roads or haul gravel. One of their employees is on the town council. But apart from that, the state of Wyoming is giving this money to these communities ostensibly to try to recruit new jobs into the community, as opposed to simply subsidizing local businesses.
Right. Yeah.
Shuffling the deck chairs.
Sure.
We're not talking about jobs that are new to Wyoming. The closest new job that I've seen in the filings and stories is somebody's going to relocate from Basin to Grayville.
Yeah, it's shuffling the deck chairs on a Titanic. But you see what I mean by, I worry about as soon as, let's say, some county commissioners or someone sitting on the city council will see this money coming their way, and they'll find a way to make sure it comes their way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's I'm going to call it an occupational hazard. The incentives are there, and it's a little bit spooky. I want to get back to the other piece of this is not only are we selling businesses. I'm fine with people living next to businesses. Unfortunately, this guy's been screaming loud as he can that, hey, we've got a problem here, and he's worried about property values. But more importantly, guess what is about 200 feet upwind of his house?
Would that be the dump?
Nope, it's going to be a crematorium.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, okay.
And next to it is going to be a concrete batch plant.
Yeah. Boy, are they going to compensate him for his lost property value there?
My sense is no.
Yeah.
And rumors I'm hearing is there's been some threats of what would happen to his business, because he's a local businessman, if something goes wrong with this project, going through the state approval process for the money. But you just hit the nail on the head. Yes, there is a lost property value here, and unlike what we talk about, NIMBYism and people wanting to make rules for what happens next door, what their neighbor's lawn looks like, what we're talking about here with the crematorium is actually invading his own private property rights, the right to be left alone and to use his property.
Now, would you have a problem with it? I don't think you would, but let's ask the question anyway. If the city came along and said, we're about to really screw up your property values, here's the value of your property in cash if you'll move away.
We call that the takings clause
of
the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. We also have a parallel clause in our Wyoming state constitution. If under the Wyoming Constitution, if somebody takes or damages private property for public or private use, then just compensation is owed.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about here. Yeah. We're talking about the potential to actually not only worrying about the value of his property, but worrying about his ability to just quietly enjoy living in his property without having his late neighbor's ashes kind of settling around his living room.
Didn't want to be that close to the guy. So is he going to be able to sue for this?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Right now, the funding for this is working. In fact, the 5 statewide elected officials are going to have this on their agenda. I believe it's June 16th, maybe. The SLIB board is going to meet and determine whether or not to approve money for the water and sewer for this project. But the project appears to be going forward. I don't know how this thing is going to work out. I know he's hired counsel, and
we'll see what the lawyers
hired
come
an attorney
up
up there, and
right.
We'll see what happens.
Okay, real quick, Boyd, real quick, where can people find? I know you're writing about this. You got an article coming up. Where can people find it?
People can look at our website at wyliberty.org.
Okay, Boyd, thanks for coming on. Call us with an update when you got one.
I will do so. Thank you.
Boyd Wiggam with Wyoming Liberty Group.